Hey everyone, and welcome to the Keep Watching podcast, where we decide what to watch so you don't have to. My name is James Galgon, and here's someone who always asks people to hold the butter. This is Sarah.
And that's an excellent point. I'm going to need you to hold it just upright over there for a while.
Oh my god, that one of my favorite scenes in the show.
That was
Okay, yeah.
incredible.
Okay, Sarah. Today we're watching Heart Signal, episode 3. We previously watched episodes 1 and 2, but we're going to start with episode 3 on the podcast and work our way from there. Can you give a brief summary of what this show is for the people listening?
So this is the second iteration, right? There was a season before that we did not watch.
Oh, yes.
And it's 6 to eventually 8, I think, young Korean singles live in a house for a while, and they're supposed to give each other heart signals to indicate that they like each other, but who knows what that means. It's unclear.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can't overtly tell each other that they like each other. And then at midnight every night, they have to anonymously text the person they like and then figure out who's texting them.
Yeah. And what's different about this show compared to other dating shows is that they actually are just living their lives. Like they go to work every day like normal, but they come back to this house. This is where they live for 4 weeks. And they're not going to like an island or some paradise away from their everyday lives. Yeah, the other twist is they can't. So in episode 1 and 2, they weren't able to share their age and occupation with each other.
Which age, especially, is a big deal in Korea. Everybody tells each other that immediately upon meeting.
Yes.
So they were super anxious to figure that out.
Yes.
And so far they just spend a lot of time cooking together. Is the main thing.
To me it seems like everything they do is just eating food and drinking is like the center of all social gatherings in this show. They never just like hanging out. They play board games a couple times. Oh, for anybody that wants to watch this show, it is streaming on viki.com, VIKI, and it's free to watch with commercials, so it's easy to find. Search for Heart Signal 2 and you'll get season 2. Yeah, the reason for start with season 2 is because my wife's coworker recommended the show to me after we were talking about the show Singles Inferno from Netflix, which was popular somewhat recently.
I love that show.
And this show is actually a precursor to that. And now that I've watched the show, it's like, oh, the Singles Inferno just mostly copied the format of this show, but just put them on an island instead of having them in the city.
Yeah, they smooth some things out. Like there are less panelists. Oh yeah, they have a panelist of a bunch of celebrities just talking about and over analyzing every single movement and glance of these people. Which is different from a lot of American reality shows.
Yeah. There are times when I appreciate the celebrity commentary, and there are times when I'm like, this is the most boring part of the show. I don't know why this is happening.
Yes. And I think it got better with Singles Inferno when they cut the number down from like 6 or 7 to 4.
Yes.
It makes it a lot more concentrated.
Yeah, I didn't mind it or notice it as much on Singles Inferno, but this show, it's like there's as many celebrities as there are contestants on the show.
It's a little overkill. Yeah.
Oh, the way that I would succinctly describe the show is a reality romance show for introverts.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
You like that? Okay. I don't know how, in the relativeness to Korean culture, I don't know if these people would be considered introverts or not, but to me, compared to, US dating reality shows, every one of these people is an introvert to me.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Huge contrast.
Okay. Do you have any major plot points that we should talk about before talking about episode 3?
You mean from the earlier?
Yeah, from episode 1 and 2.
Okay, So, context that I think is super important is just that Hyunwoo has been flirting with Youngju
Oh
in a
wait, we
weird
gotta
way
stop. Wait, we messed up.
for a
We have to
while.
introduce the contestants of this show
Okay,
before we do
that's
anything else.
fair.
Do you want to
We'll do it.
introduce the guys or the girls? We'll split it.
I want to do. Who do I want to do? I want to do the girls.
The girls. Okay. Let's start with the girls.
So currently there are three women in the house. The first woman to show up is a Youngju, who we later discover is 26, and she does marketing for a quote foreign company, which it's Microsoft. It's kind of beeped out in the Korean, but is in the subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
And she shows up first.
And
I
then,
think she
hold
has real good hair. And
Oh,
is
you actually
clearly the
mentioned
best.
it. I thought you weren't going to mention that. Sarah,
No, should
Sarah,
I not?
for the listeners, Sarah created a infographic document for all the characters of the show because in the first few episodes, it was easy to get a few people confused. So you kind of had to get your faces
Yeah.
and come up with reasons to distinguish people.
Yeah,
But
so
Sarah just
especially
wrote for
because
Youngju. Sarah just wrote as her interesting fact. She just wrote good hair, which
and clearly the best. Clearly the best.
saying that
Um,
Youngju has good hair and is kind of like I feel like a diss of the other two women who clearly also have good hair.
no, it's just it elevates her in the category of good hair. She has
Okay,
the best hair.
okay, interesting. These are your private notes, so I apologize for sharing them with
No,
everybody.
this is fine. I mean, I shared them
You
first.
shared it, but I really called you out on it.
So the next woman to join was Hyunjoo. We find out she's 25. She's a student of fashion design, and she got all the votes from the guys in episode one. She has some sort of like cute characteristic that just upon meeting drive all the Korean boys wild, I guess.
Yeah, she was kind of like there's a character in Singles Inferno who had a very similar vibe where for whatever reason like all the guys like upon seeing her were like blown away. And when in
I
like the
got
first
real
day when they
distracted for a
in the
while.
first day when they barely talk to each other because they're not even allowed to like say their age or their occupation, they're like almost solely going off of looks in this day one text. So yeah, Hyungju got all the text in episode one.
A cutesy younger vibe, which I think
Younger,
is
but she's only
part of the
1 year
thing.
younger than the other two women.
Yeah, but everybody
But
was
yeah,
pretty shocked to find out she was as old as she was. So, like, they were expecting like 22, I think. And then our third woman to join was Daeun, who is 26. And as far as I can tell, she's trying to be an actress. She goes to yoga. But when Hyunwoo showed up, even though she's trying to be an actress, she could not control her face at all. She just her
yeah,
lips went all over the place. I cannot describe her face she made. You just gotta
yeah,
go
yeah,
find out because it was amazing.
yeah. They they say they do mention her like she works for her dad's like factory or something,
I
but
always forget that.
the celebrity and contestants I believe interpreted that as her being unemployed. So
Yeah.
uh
She goes to help out, doesn't necessarily have an actual
yeah, I
position
thought
or
that was a
get
little
paid.
harsh, but it was like okay, maybe that's what it is.
They did show her with a clipboard, on the like factory floor or whatever. So
Yeah.
she goes there sometimes.
So Youngju, 26, she's in marketing, works for Microsoft. Hyungju, 25, student, and Daeun, 26, is an actor. Those are the three women. You ready for the guys?
Oh yeah.
Okay. The first guy that enters is Do-kyun. He's 29 years old, and he's what they call him in quotes a Korean medicine doctor. I would also
Which we've interpreted as acupuncture or maybe some
they definitely showed him
herbal
doing
medicinal
acupuncture.
stuff.
Yeah, it seemed maybe like a little bit not necessarily like traditional medicine in a sense.
Or it is more
But
traditional, depending on how you want to talk about
he
it.
was diagnosing like people's ankle injuries and hand injuries throughout the house. So it seems
Yeah,
like
so has some basic first
he
aid
is
at
well
least.
trained as a like a
Yeah.
full normal doctor as well. Um, I would categorize him as the most awkward guy on the show. Would you agree with that?
Oh yes, I
Okay.
would expand it beyond
Dokyun.
the show even.
Oh,
Like
wow. Okay.
he's
That's harsh.
very
That's
awkward.
harsh.
Maybe not the most awkward man ever, but like, oof, that
Yeah.
poor boy.
So Dokyun, I would say the awkward doctor is how I would describe him. Um, Guy number two is Jaeho, who is 27 years old, and he is the CEO of an IT startup. I don't think we got into what he actually makes for his startup, but he's the closest. I feel like a few times in the show they've described him as kind of like a K-pop idol look. Like he's the closest to that out of all the guys.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I'd also say he's probably the most outgoing.
yes, he's the least introvert of all these introverts, I would say. He
Yes,
actually might
a
not be an
low bar,
introvert, but he's like lowering himself down to everybody else because he realizes that they're all introverts. That's how
and
the
he
kind of the vibe he gives
actually
off.
he went to high school with
Oh,
Hyunjoo,
yeah.
but he was a year
The
older,
first
so they kind of knew of each other, but didn't really know each other well.
yeah, the first girl, the marketing 26-year-old Youngju, he went to high school. He described her as, the popular girl in school, which she rejected in the moment. But
Yeah, she did. She didn't want him talking about high school too
yes,
much,
yeah,
honestly.
they there are a few times in the show where they're talking about things, and somebody will just be like, "Do we have to talk about this anymore?" uh, okay, our third guy is Gyubin. He's 24 years old, and he's also still a student. But they were giving him credit for passing this level 5 civil service test, which I'm not familiar with, but they were saying it was almost to the level of like passing a bar exam, but for civil service stuff instead of becoming a lawyer.
I think it's
Um,
something you need to like go into like politics at a certain level in Korea, and
oh,
the panelists seem super impressed with like the level of
yeah,
it that
they were
he
very
passed.
impressed with it. Um, so I was impressed as well. I, I have no reason to doubt. But he's
But he
he's the
is the
youngest. He's
youngest.
the youngest guy and the youngest person on the show as of now. And then we have our fourth guy is Hyungwoo, who's 32 years old. He's our oldest guy and person on the show. And he had a weird experience on the show. He showed up at the end of night one after everybody had gone to bed. And then he left in the morning before anybody else got up.
Yes,
And
there had been a secret room that everybody found that during their first day there,
yeah,
and it was locked. And then the next day, it was unlocked and open a little bit, and they were all like, "What happened?"
yes. So they like snooped in his room while he was gone because they
They
weren't even sure
love
if somebody
snooping
was
in his room.
there. Yeah, they're very interested in this room that was locked at the beginning of the show. Um, but they are able to deduce, and we find out later that he owns a Japanese restaurant, and that's why he's very busy all the time.
Yeah, I think it's kind of put him at a disadvantage. He is always at work,
Yeah,
at least in the beginning.
yeah.
But he makes up for it in mystery.
Hmm. And he also has a weird connection. Wait, does that happen in this episode? The weird connection with Youngju,
No,
or is
they
that in
talk about
episode
this
two?
in episode 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in episode when he finally gets home on day two from work and he actually meets everybody for the first time and they're sitting down to dinner, he says to Youngju that he recognizes her from somewhere.
And she's
And
like, "No, you do not."
they're not allowed to talk about their jobs, so they like don't get into it because I guess they're like afraid to reveal what their job is at the time. But he only so Hyungwoo's like the best thing he can say is that he guesses that she's an office worker, um, which
She
is
doesn't
like
deny or
yeah,
agree
she
with
can't
because
deny or
like she
confirm
can't.
because they can't tell each other that their ages or occupations. So because it seems like they are very limited to what they feel like they could talk about because they are afraid to reveal their age or occupation. or that is just such a I don't know, maybe you can speak to like whether, age and occupation is like the first thing you talk about with anybody you meet.
Oh, age is definitely like, yeah, first thing. Everybody's going to know how
Okay.
polite they have to be to each other. Um, I don't know specifically on occupation, but like even with American conversations, I feel that's a pretty early thing,
Yeah,
and
that is
sometimes it
true.
can be hard to talk around.
Yeah. I guess I was just in the couple first episodes, like they don't talk about their interests or they don't seem to I don't know. It just feels like they should be
About
talking
very
about
little.
there
It's
should be other things
awkward.
to talk about, but I feel like for whatever reason, because of how they're used to talking to each other, they just like
Hmm.
because there's this whole like you just mentioned, there's like there's depending if someone's older or younger than you, like there's a way to talk to each other, and when you don't have
Yeah.
that information, it like just makes it awkward
I
in these
think that's like a
situations.
big part of what's making them like be so weird around each other. They don't know how they fit in the social
Yeah,
hierarchy, and like that's a
they
really
don't.
important part
Yeah,
of like the Korean language.
yeah, like they're all afraid to be rude to each other, even though in some instances like they have to know. Like Hyunwoo has to know like all the girls are younger than him, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so those are four guys. I'll say them again. Do Kyun is the awkward doctor. Jae-ho, the K-pop looking IT startup CEO. Yubin, the student, maybe trying to become a politician. And Hyungwoo is a Japanese restaurant owner. Okay. What were you saying before I interrupted you to do the cast?
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
we were
So,
recapping episode 1 and 2. We did that a little bit by talking about the cast, but what were your
right.
major highlights?
My major highlight is the level at which Hyunwoo just immediately comes for Youngju. I mean, in the most introverted sort of way, but like when they sit down to eat first, he's like, "Oh, wait, I know you," and she's just like, "No, stop it, I don't know you." And then he's like, "I bet I can guess all of your occupations," and then he only guesses hers. He just ignores everybody else after that.
Yeah, I don't know if they edited it out or not, but
Oh, that's
that
true.
was weird. There are a couple moments in the show where it's like it feels like they're about to, do a big thing where they do something fun and then it just like turns into something very small. And
Yeah.
even this conversation with where he like talks he like to me it's not a big deal that he mentions that she's seen her before, but the celebrity judges made a big deal out of it. And I guess you're making a big deal of it, so maybe it's just me.
Well, just it all combined with everything else, it's just, I don't know. But then when they're all finally revealing all their ages to each other, they do a little thing where, like, "Oh, guess how old I am first." And he looks at her and he's like, "I bet you're 30." And she is so offended by it.
Oh yeah.
And it becomes this playful little kind of flirting thing. Um, and then it turns out she's younger and he's like, "Oh, oops." Um, But then, so all of that, I was like, he's coming for her, clearly. And then they send their text that night, and he doesn't pick her. And it drives me crazy. There's some secret,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know,
Who does he
Korean
pick?
reason why he picks someone else. And I'm just like, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, who does he pick in episode? I think he picks Daeun, right? I think he just saw
Oh,
her crazy face when she entered.
solid maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your their big storyline. I have a different
Yeah,
one.
well, so going forward, like, I'm shipping these two real hard. These are who I want to, end up
Oh,
together.
okay. I see. Okay, you're invested in this.
Oh, and it turns out the reason he knows her is because he used to cook at a restaurant in like a food court in a building that she used to work in. So he remembers her from like seeing her from the kitchen, like enough where he remembers her after all these years. And so it's super cute slash maybe a little creepy that he's just like, "Oh, you're that hot girl from before."
Yeah. It seems like it took her a little bit to like to connect the dots on this. Like at first she's like, "How dare you think you knew me from somewhere when I don't know you from anywhere?" But then later she like kind of puts it together and starts to think like, "Oh, he remembered me. That's actually cool."
Yeah.
I'm not actually
She like
offended by this.
remembers the restaurant, but like never saw him or
Yeah,
he did not register to her as a
yeah.
person.
Which is, I feel like Hyunwoo more than at least the other three guys in the show has like a more distinct look. So he's
He
actually like
does.
more rememberable than any of the other three guys in the show, and she still doesn't remember him.
He's also like more reserved than any of the other guys. He has like this quieter personality.
Hyungwoo is my
Hmm?
favorite. He's great.
Oh
We'll get
yeah,
into
he's great.
Hyungwoo. Okay, my major storyline. I don't know if you agree with this, but this is right at the when they sent the text on episode 2. This is like the main setup going into episode 3. Is
Hmm.
Dokyun, the awkward medicine doctor, gets all 3 texts from the girls in episode 2.
Yes, he does.
And this was weird to me because they do this little thing at the end of every episode, which is dumb. It's like the worst part of the show, where the celebrity judges try to guess all the different texts, who's going to send their text to who at the end of the night. And the only thing that's really fun to do during this like 15 minutes of the show is to make your own guesses and not actually listen to what the celebrity judges are saying. And I did not pick any of the girls to pick Dokyun, but I was watching this with my wife, and she made a good point that they had just revealed their occupations to each other, and I think that a doctor was like a big the fact that he was a doctor was like a big factor in
Oh, I
this.
have a completely different take on this.
Really, okay, hold up. But so there was a scene in the episode 2 where they like talk about the girls are like asking each other like what's their type of guy they're looking for, and one of them says that they like guys who are reliable, quote unquote, and then the other two girls kind of like agree with her. And but when I first watched this by myself, I was like, oh, like they mean like emotionally supportive, kind of reliable. But when I watched it with my wife, and then she made this point, she was saying like, oh, she thinks it's like financially or like successfully like they want like a successful person. So that's why I don't know. That's why I thought it was a good interpretation that they became interested in Dokyun after he revealed his occupation, compared to
Interesting.
like the IT guy, the restaurant guy, and the restaurant guy who seems like he's had a lot of jobs like over the years, uh, and then the guy who's just a student. So that's how I interpreted it. So that's my big headline is that Dokyun got all three texts going into the episode 3.
So I took it as that night, Dokyun decided to make dinner for everybody. And he wasn't real good at it, but he like put the effort into going out, get groceries, and then like making food for everyone. And um Korea's kind of like a place where food equals love. Like that's how you care for people.
Okay.
And so I thought it was that. Um like so much so that there are some greetings in Korean that literally translate to just have you eaten? And then
Oh.
like that's it's not how are you doing? It's like is your stomach full? And so I thought that because he went through and like put that effort into making the meal for everybody, even if it wasn't the best, that really like warmed their hearts a bit,
Okay. That's possible. I
which
well,
informs a lot of
you gave
this
him.
next episode for me.
I think you gave Dokyun a little too much credit when you said he wasn't that good at cooking. Um, the guy literally like put water in a pot to boil some pasta, but couldn't figure out how to turn the the heat on to
It
the
was
point
the
where
weird
he's like
electric
waiting.
range,
It's a
and
weird like stovetop, like countertop stove that you have to plug in, and it wasn't plugged in. But it got to the point
yeah,
where he didn't know what was going on, and he waits for one of the girls to come over. When one of the girls come over, he's like, "Is that boiling?" Like he didn't wasn't 100% sure if the water was boiling or not.
yeah.
and he
I
had
mean, you're
already put
right. He's
and he had already put the pasta in the water, so it was just soaking in lukewarm water. And then when they finally get the pot heated and it's cooked, like literally like half of the pasta is like ready, but the other half is still hard because it's like half been dipped in the water for a long time. So
And yet they
it's a
all
next
chose him.
level of not understanding, not being good at cooking. Like if you want somebody who's reliable in the
Fair.
food
The man
department,
is 29 and cannot make pasta.
yeah.
You're right.
And
But
there's
he
literally
tried.
a chef in the house.
Well, yeah, which is what I think is a great like foil for him now. Like personality wise, they're kind of different. And then also now it's like, wait, I cooked for people. It was successful. And now he's coming in and horning in on my territory. You gonna cook for everyone? No.
Yeah, it's a great dynamic. I guess at this point, the 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 chef has not actually gotten to make food for anybody yet. So far, Do-kyun is the only one out of the guys that has put forth effort into making food for people.
Everything else, like they come together and they kind of cook as a group, sort of. But this was like he was the first one there. He planned a
Yeah,
meal. He really took on that
yeah.
role for that meal. And
Do-kyun is very calculated.
yes,
He knows what he's very aware of his not being socially reliable, and he tries to
uh-huh.
make up for it like consciously by like listening to people what they say and then kind of like showing them that he remembered what they said or going out of his way to get the groceries and start dinner when everybody's not home yet. Like he knows what he knows what his game is, you know.
He's peppered in trying to hustle.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to highlight before we get to episode 3?
Honestly, the first two episodes are that's all I needed from them. Set people up, and then
Yeah.
two potential couples, or one potential couple, and then this other guy that can't cook.
Yeah. Each episode of the show is like 90 minutes without commercials, but there's like 20 minutes of celebrity talking about guessing. So it's almost like a 1
Yeah,
hour without commercial show. Um, but to me, it's like a 2 hours of television without having like a normal conversation with each other. It's like pretty crazy.
yeah.
Um, but I enjoyed it. It got me to episode 3. All right, let's start on episode 3. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So I think every episode actually opens with this. It's the host celebrity opens the show with like welcome to the world's most intriguing romance suspense. That,
It's a
do
bold
you
claim.
agree with that? Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I'm intrigued by it, but I
yeah,
wouldn't think that it's got that broad appeal that they're spouting off
yeah,
there.
yeah. Certainly, like I don't know. I don't think like in the U.S. market this would be like the most intriguing romance suspense, but you know, as of now, this might be like the best romantic reality television I've ever enjoyed. Um, so I kind of agree with it, I guess.
I
But
agree,
they
but like
boldly,
that's not normally a genre that I enjoy, and yet this
yeah,
show is doing it for
yeah.
me.
And I'm not sure, but they make it seem like this is the first of its kind in Korea. I don't know if they don't
Uh,
like the first dating show or just the first dating show with this format. I'm not sure.
yeah, I haven't really done any research on that, but it's a couple years old at this point. It was like what 2017, 2016, around when this came out, I think.
2016 is in my head, but I forget the exact year. Okay, and then the next thing he always says is, and I'm here with my 6 celebrity predictors with keen eyes for romance. That's how he describes all the celebrities. And
Well, I mean, that's the baseline for getting hired for this show.
I
You got to
guess,
be on the
and I want to
lookout.
I want to say that Sangmin is one of the celebrity judges who that we are familiar with from another show we watched, The Genius, where he was a contestant on that show, which I believe was prior to this. But he's like a
Yeah, I think so.
former singer, famous Korean celebrity. He's bigger than
Yeah,
what we
and
know him for, but we're aware of him.
yes,
I think he says in this episode, we like I or we don't have a keen eye for romance, or he makes a joke out like he's like even like making fun of the tagline for the descriptor of
right.
themselves. Yeah,
He is
which
easily
I
the best
yeah
pathos.
he has a thing where like I always think like, oh, these celebrities like overreacting to some of like the small things that happen on the show. But when he gets out of his chair, he's like the only celebrity
You
that like
know it's
has such a
important.
big emotional reaction to things that happen on the show that he gets out of his chair, and that gets me hype when he does that. So
Yeah.
he's like the one. He's definitely the judge I appreciate the most.
There's a great part in this opening bit where somebody mentions that because they record at least the panelist parts like week to week. So the previous episodes have already been aired.
Yes,
And
yeah,
they're talking about how on Naver, which is like Korean Google, and they have like the top search results show up for like the country. Like a lot of the names from the show of the contestants was showing up, and Sankman was like, "Wait, but what about us? Were we there?" And he's just
yeah,
like, "We're clearly more important part of this show. Why is no one searching for us?"
yeah.
It was great.
More specifically though, in this they describe that Dokyun specifically was trending on
Yes.
online because he got all three votes from the women in episode 3. So that's what that confirmed my that's why that was my major story going in, and then they were talking about it right at the beginning of the episode.
And then they were also talking about how different he is from Hyunwoo, so it feels like that's really set up like they're
Yeah,
going to be
they
kind
have
of
this,
diametrically
yeah,
opposed.
Dokyun versus the awkward doctor versus the Japanese restaurant owner. Oh, that was good. Yeah, so I think they so they filmed this show. I don't know how far in advance they film it, but this is what I've kind of deduced from. I'm like 5 episodes into the show at this point. I think they film it all in advance, and I think they edit it however they're going to edit it. But then they have another filming session with the celebrity judges where they
Right.
watch the edited version of the show, but they watch one episode of the show a week, and then they splice the celebrity reactions in with the episode and release it to the public. Because then, yeah, the celebrity
Before
judges
they record another session
before
with
they
the
record
panels,
another
yeah.
celebrity judges session, because the celebrity judges are always talking about the reaction that the public has had to the airing of the show. But the actual footage of the house must have been, months ago, at least.
Yeah, as it continues like episode to episode, they pick up right where they left off. It's like one day per episode sometimes.
So
So,
far, yeah, they've got to be
yeah.
moving faster at some point because I think they said 4 weeks and it's only like a 15 episode show. So
Yeah, I think after we get over this initial like people coming together and
yeah,
getting settled in the house, there's going to be a bit more downtime in
yeah, I
between.
am worried that like the beginning of the show is so intriguing because it's like, oh, who's gonna couple up with who? But then at some point, it's like, oh, the relationships are are kind of
Set
set in
and it's
stone,
fine.
and then we're gonna get like they're gonna yada yada a lot of the days until they get like something interesting happens that is
Right.
worth putting in the show. But we'll see.
But there is another woman coming at some point, which might shake things
Yes,
up a little bit.
yes. I don't think we have to talk much about the celebrities going forward. I
Yeah.
think I have a little bit
They,
about them at the end of the show and maybe some of their reactions along the way, but they're not like the reason to watch the show.
they don't have a lot to offer for the majority of the time.
Yeah. Okay. So when we finally get back to the house, Hyungwoo is lonely, and
Oh, poor
he
lonely
is
Hyunwoo.
yes, he's in a room all by himself on the. Oh, I wanted to before we, I wanted to talk about the no the layout of this house.
Right.
So they enter. I don't know if this is normal or it's just that this house is a little weird, but they enter on like a ground floor
Hmm.
where they have like their little like mud space where they take off their shoes. And then there's even like a couch area, almost like a sitting area on the ground floor. But then
Very
they
first
go up
day.
they go up they have to go up a flight of stairs to get to the first floor, what they call the first floor.
Hmm.
And that's where the guys' room is with the 3 beds for the first 3 guys. And then
And
on the
there's also
second
the kitchen's
floor,
on that level,
the kitchen is on that level.
and then another sitting room,
Yes.
and presumably a bathroom somewhere. But
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It's like right off the guy's room.
Oh yeah, the third
And the
bed in the
one
guy's
bed
room is
is
like right next to the bathroom door, so you almost have to like walk over his bed.
to get in. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. And then there's another flight of stairs to go to the second floor, and that's where the women's bedroom is, in addition to Hyungwoo's bedroom. And Hyungwoo's bedroom
Right.
is like, it's gotta be as big as the guy's bedroom with three people in it on the first floor. Like,
It's a like double bed
yeah, he's got a huge
and
bed.
like so much space.
Yeah.
The guys have in the guys' room have single beds. The girls have single beds, but also bunk beds.
Yes.
And he's just like living the luxurious life in there
Yeah.
on the girls' floor.
Yeah. He gets to be on the same floor as the girls. But when we get to the start of the episode, he's lonely. And they show him wandering through the house. And Yogu does this thing where he just gets in his zone of whatever he's doing. And he almost does not like acknowledge the presence of other beings
Yes.
while he does it. So he's literally just like walking. I don't think he goes into the girls' room, but he walks like room to room in the house, and he's just like looking at that. Like I guess nobody like gave him the tour of the house, so he's just like, I'm gonna go give myself the tour of the house right now. So he's like walking into the guy's room, and he's going in their closet, and then he like one of the guys is just like,
Comment
other guys
about
like
sharing
watching
the
him.
clothes.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you guys have a lot of clothes. We could probably share.
The other guy is just like, share? What?
Share, yeah. The celebrity judges were like, this guy, guys don't usually share clothes, do they? Oh yeah. So the guys seem to notice that Hyungwoo is lonely, or I think Jaeho talked to him about it. So Jaeho tells the other two guys that he's going to be moving up to Hyungwoo's room. They're going to take his bed and move up to Hyungwoo's room.
Gonna make that sacrifice and be closer to the women, you know?
Yeah. And I thought this was a little bit of like, an actual like social divide where I would say that Do-kyun and Gyubin, the awkward doctor and the young student, are like probably the two most awkward guys. And then Jaeho and Hyungwoo are like the cooler guys who
Oh,
decided
definitely.
to like move into each other's room and kind of so what happens is like Do-kyun and Gyubin are now stuck on the first floor while Hyungwoo and Jaeho are like upstairs, like across the hall from the women's bedroom,
Yeah, it's
and there's
these
a
two lonely guys, and then
yeah
everyone else is
yeah
upstairs.
and there's even like a little like living room area on the second floor too, so they can just kind of like leave their room and go sit down and like socialize without ever going downstairs.
And so, like, Jeho says something, like, as he's leaving, he's like, oh, don't leave me out. I'll miss you
Yeah.
guys. And it's like, really, it's the other way around.
Yeah,
Like,
don't leave me out of whatever you two losers downstairs are doing. I'll be upstairs with the five cool kids. Yeah, I thought that was crazy. Yeah. And I feel like Yubin and like Do-kyun are like too socially awkward to go like inject themselves into like whatever
definitely.
socialization process is going on upstairs. Yeah. So it's a unfortunate logistical dynamic for these two guys, the way it played out.
Eventually,
Oh
it's just
man.
going to be a whole bunch of beds in that seating area. It's just like, no, we all live in a clump up here.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, do you think you fully understand the time of year and what day of the week like this show is happening on?
I do.
You do,
I know
okay.
exactly
I
what day of
think
the
I
week
do,
it
but
is.
I'm not 100% sure. You want to explain it?
Okay, so I know for a fact that this episode takes place. Well, that part was the night before, but the full day that we're about to experience was a Saturday, and it is like 2 days before Christmas.
Yes. Okay. That's what I thought. But it took me a while to get there because they were like, first they were like, it's Christmas. And then they were like, it's Christmas Eve. And then it was like, what are you doing on Christmas Eve? Like, I was like, wait, is Christmas Eve tomorrow? Okay. I think you're right, though.
Or tomorrow
Which means the
is Christmas
show's,
Eve.
they all entered the house on like a Thursday night, is the
Yes.
way I'm viewing this. Yeah. So they had to go to their jobs on Friday, but then a lot of them didn't go to their jobs on Saturday. On this
Except
episode,
for Hyunwoo, who always has to be at the
except for
restaurant.
the restaurant owner. Yeah. Okay. So the day starts, and it's time to make breakfast. I feel like making food at any point in the show is going to be a big moment. Do-kyun is the first one to get into the kitchen. I think his game plan. He's trying to
Is to
stick with his
be in the
game plan.
kitchen.
Trying to
Yeah,
stick with his game plan. And then
but he doesn't know what he's doing.
he gets this cool moment. At least I think it's a cool moment where all three of the girls come down to the kitchen at the same time, and it's just him and the three girls. And I have in my notes like this has got to feel good because
Except,
he literally got three texts. Usually it's supposed to be anonymous, I believe, who's sending the text
yes,
to you. But because he got three texts, he knows that every single girl sent him a text. and and now he's like trying to make breakfast and they're like down here. I don't know. This is like the perfect scenario for him. But he gets a little
except
overwhelmed. Yeah, you can talk about
exactly. He
that.
does not know what to do. He just stands off to the side and kind of stares at them, which is a reoccurring theme in this entire episode is Do-kyun just staring at people.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. He also might not have known how to make breakfast. That might have been.
Also true. Yes.
Yeah.
Cannot kitchen.
Yeah. So Do-kyun and the girls start making breakfast, but then here comes Hyungwoo. And
And immediately the girls are like, "Oh, wait, are you going to cook for us?"
yeah, which
Cuz
Hyungwoo of course does
he
not
actually
respond.
knows what he's doing.
Yeah, but
Of course.
Hyungwoo I the way I describe Hyungwoo is like if you want to ask this guy a question, you have to wait for at least 30 seconds before he's going to respond to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where
So
Do-kyun can't kitchen, Hyunwoo can't human. Like it's just very like
he's just
there's
focused on.
specifically a part in here where he actually asked Daeun like what they're doing, like what the breakfast plan is. And she starts to describe what they're gonna do. She's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make some juice with these apples and carrots, and they're making some eggs." And partway through, he just walks away. And like
I love this
she's
part of
just
the
like,
show.
"What? What?" Like she's standing there with
Oh
Hyunjoo,
man.
and she just is like has this expression on her face like, "What did I do wrong? Was it the food? Was it how I was talking? What is happening?"
Yeah, she
But
got
what's really happening is like he heard a way he can help and he went to go find the tools to do it, but didn't say that.
yeah. He didn't say what was he just didn't say what he was thinking and he just went to do it. I love this guy.
Yes. And then he
This
comes
is my
back
dude
and
right
like
here.
takes the vegetable to like peel. He just takes it away and does it and gives it back to her. But there's like so little conversation that
Yeah.
she thinks she did something wrong. It's hilarious.
But then like 5 minutes later, we also find out that like he's kind of in a hurry to get to because he has to get to work
Right.
and everybody else is not in a hurry. So
Yeah,
it gives
they're
a little bit of
lounging
context.
Saturday morning
He's
vibes,
yeah.
and he's like, "I gotta go."
He certainly still could have, communicated what his thought process was very quickly
Except
to get people on the
he
same
can't.
page, but he's not interested in doing that,
Mhm.
Yeah. I have in my notes I love this guy.
Oh yeah,
he's just doing him, and if they want to like him just doing him, that's great. Whereas like Do-kyun has
and
almost the opposite strategy where like he is trying to do things that are kind of outside of him in order to impress the girls. So they're like the polar opposites of what they're doing here.
then Hyunwoo heard that they wanted to make eggs, so he just starts making scrambled eggs in the most chef way possible. So like
Oh yeah.
he cracks a bunch of eggs, he starts mixing them up, he puts a little milk in, and then Do-kyun's over there like, "You put milk in eggs? What?" He's like staring at him trying to steal his cooking secrets or something.
Yeah.
And then Hyunwoo starts running the eggs through a sifter to make them all like really silky smooth. And it's like everyone in the kitchen is just staring at him while he does this, just completely enraptured with his cooking skills.
Yes. And the celebrity judges have a huge reaction to
Yes.
Hyunjoo, the student,
Fashion student.
the fashion student, who I don't know if this was an overreaction or not, but she is like they had like zoom in shots of like her pulling on her fingers behind her back and playing with her hair while watching Hyunwoo, and she was like doing a weird thing with her slipper while watching Hyunwoo, and they were like,
Popped up a little bit.
"Oh!" They
She's
were
just like,
like,
oh,
I don't know if this was a Sangman out of his chair moment, but it was like
it was close.
everybody's like at simultaneous. They were like, "Oh my goodness!" uh, and I don't, yeah, I don't know if like if these are serious moments or the show is just like making them serious moments. It's weird.
I also never know how long this awkward staring is lasting. Like maybe they're just cutting it together to make it seem longer, but if that's real time, it's the most awkward thing ever.
Yeah, I think in this one, it's like it's reasonable for them to be like, "Wow, I want to see how he's making these eggs." Um, so I don't think it was that weird. But
It happens a lot, especially with Dokyun. Just like he's always staring, usually at Hyunwoo,
yeah,
trying to figure out what's going on
Dokkan,
and not
yeah,
moving.
Dokkan's either like directly staring at somebody or he's like side staring at them, where he doesn't want them to know that he's
Yes.
yeah. There's even a
But
point in this.
literally in my notes, it's let's watch Hyunwoo make eggs for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because that's what this show is.
Yeah. There's a point where he's Hyungwoo is just doing his thing. He's like going cabinet to cabinet looking for a sifter. And he's like, people are like, "What are you looking for?" And he's just like, not responding, not responding. And then
They're
Dokyun starts.
even talking about him.
Yes, Dokyun starts talking, telling the girls like, "Oh, Jaeho is gonna move up with Hyungwoo to his room." And then Dokyun is like, I feel like Dokyun like kind of wants to be the one that moves up to Hyungwoo's to stay with Hyungwoo. So he's like presenting this situation where, "Oh, I could move up with you, Hyungwoo." But then Hyungwoo's like not really listening. And he's like,
He's on a
yeah.
mission.
He's like we're talking about, is it okay that we're talking about you? And he's like, "Huh, what?" Oh yeah. So good. Oh, Hyungwoo also does this thing. This also comes up. Like maybe we could wait. Well, wait till we get to a part. But no, let's just do it. Ready? Ask me a question. Just ask me a question about me or something.
What do you like to eat for breakfast?
Me? Who? Me? You're talking to me? That's his move. Like he'll be in a one-on-one with somebody, and like clearly they're talking to him, but like his like delay tactic to responding to questions is to be like, "Oh, you're talking to me?" Like
Just not used to people addressing him
the
directly,
sub yeah,
maybe.
the subtitles always say "me?" question mark, and then he pauses for 30 seconds and then he responds to his question. He does it so often. Oh my god. Okay, so they're gonna sit down to breakfast now, and Jaeho, being the least introvert of everybody at the table, he's gonna start asking people questions like a normal person, and he just gets things like he just asks like, "Oh, anybody doing anything today?" Stuff like that, and it's just crickets. He just gets crickets from everybody. Nobody responds to him. And then at some point, eventually, after he asks a few questions and doesn't really get anything back, he just goes, "Does everybody hate me?" I laughed
It
so
was
hard at this
fantastic.
part. Does everybody hate me? Oh, it's so good.
They do finally respond and they're like, no, it's fine.
Yeah,
And they're all laughing, but like,
we don't want you to
it is
know that we
amazing.
hate you, even if we might hate you. Yeah, that's kind of the response. That's kind of how I would have interpreted it if I was Jo.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that
But
was
he
good.
did have a little like ulterior motive here where he was like trying to fish for people to help him move his big bed up a floor. And no one ever actually agreed to it. Maybe
Yeah.
Cuban did at some point. But I was really hoping for a moving montage of like them trying to get this bed up this spiraling
Oh,
staircase, and
it's
we never got it.
they're
It was
not
very
moving.
disappointing.
Not moving Hyungwoo's bed. They're just moving Jaeho's. It's like a twin
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
size bed, right?
Yeah, it's a twin, but like the stairs like
Oh, the stairs.
rotate
Yeah.
around in a weird way, and these are the most awkward people in existence. So
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
I just feel like it would be a classic moving
they didn't show
weird
it, but
scene.
I assumed like Jaeho and Hyungwoo could have handled it by themselves. But
Yeah.
Certainly, the four guys in the house could have made it
I
happen.
just wanted to see
You
it,
just wanted
but I
to see
guess it
it.
wasn't that interesting.
Yeah.
And there is a great part where like everybody's trying these fancy eggs that we have watched him make for 15 minutes,
Oh
and
yeah.
Dokin's like doesn't put any on his plate, and at some point he just flips a fork in the bowl and like eats it, and like his face lights. He's like, "Oh, this is really good."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
Like
was like,
he doesn't want to enjoy it, but he does.
yeah, he really just like didn't want to admit that Hyunwoo was a good chef, even though it's like literally his job. So he like refused to eat it, but then eventually was like, I must taste these eggs. And then you could just like hear his brain being like, no, they're delicious. Okay, and then the other note I had from this breakfast is that um who asked who asked this, but one of the girls says, one of the girls is like,
Daein.
"Oh, Hyungwoo, can we come visit your restaurant today?"
Oh,
Because he
but
was like
here's
the
the
old,
important part.
yeah.
She doesn't say Hyunwoo. She calls him Oppa, which is like an important thing. Here's a mini little Korean language lesson. Whereas Oppa is the term for like women to call like an older brother, except it isn't exclusive to like family members. You could call somebody an Oppa who's older than you, who's like a friend who's pretty close. But it does also come out in like a relationship thing. Like you'd call your older boyfriend an Oppa. Um,
Oh.
so when she said that, like I had my own Sangmin jumping out of a chair moment. I'm
Oh,
like, she's
really?
going for it. She's calling him Oppa.
That totally went over my head. That's crazy. And who said this?
Yeah, they don't have it in the subtitles, but like because I'm learning Korean, I picked it up. But
Who said
yeah,
Opa?
it was Daeun. Yeah, she
Dayan.
called him
Okay, the
Oppa. She's
third
like,
girl,
Oppa,
the actress.
can
Okay.
we go? Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get an incredible, suspenseful, long pause from Hyungwoo where
Yes.
he I don't think he did the me thing. You talking to me? You want to come? I'm the only one with the restaurant. Are you talking to me? He didn't do that. But we get a long, like 30-second pause of just everybody at the table staring at Hyungwoo,
Well, he
and
finishes
he's just like
chewing.
covering his mouth while he's chewing, and then he's like, "Sure," and then all the girls are like, "Oh my god, he said yes!" Like they're so shocked that they like a restaurant owner would have let them go to their restaurant. Like,
Yes.
what is this situation? They are pumped. They were not sure if they were going to be allowed to go to this restaurant.
Yeah. They were so excited. And then a minute later, like it cuts to all the other guys giving each other a look like, damn it, all the girls are
Yeah.
going to his restaurant today.
So I don't know about you, but I thought everybody was going to the restaurant.
I also thought
Yeah,
everybody was
there were
going to the
two
restaurant.
two of the guys claimed that they had something to do, but in retrospect, I feel like they said that because like they were uncomfortable going to the guy's restaurant. Like they might have just lied. Because the one guy was like, "Oh, I have something to do at 1 p.m." and the other guy was like, "Oh, I also have something at the same exact time." I don't know. It was a little weird. But I
Yeah.
mean, if I was a guy on the show, like I'm going to that guy's restaurant.
Oh, 100%. Especially if two of the other guys like dropped out. You get to be the only guy in the car with the girls going to the restaurant.
Yeah, like
100%.
this ends up being like, regardless of what the show wants to call it, like this is the first date of the show. It's a group date
Yes.
between Hyungwoo and all three of the women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh yeah, so they're gonna go to his restaurant. That's the big news from breakfast, and probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened on the show before is that they're
Yes.
actually gonna go
Definitely.
to a location outside of the house and hopefully talk about things that aren't their Asian occupation.
Hopefully.
Yes. Oh man. So, we got a little bit of a conversation with the guys here, and this is before we get to the restaurant scene, I think. And
There's some weird timing issues where they show us flashbacks of things that happened maybe like during getting ready for
yeah, we get a little,
breakfast or before or after, and it's not really clear when any of them happen,
yeah,
but I guess it's not important.
yeah. We get. I have my notes that there's a conversation between just the guys where Jae-ho actually admits to the other guys that he is hard interested in Daeyeon, which is
Yes.
the only time in the show that anybody's ever like almost willing to admit that they like are crushing on somebody in the
Wait, did
house.
he say her name?
I believe
Or
he
did
did.
he say some stuff and then they cut to a shot of her?
Oh, that's a good question. It was very clear to the audience that he was talking about Daeyeon. I thought
Yeah.
he said it or made it clear enough to the guys. Um, I think he told them. I think he told them like
Okay.
verbatim. Um, so yeah, Jaeho is definitely the least introvert of everybody because he's not scared to admit his like feelings. I appreciate
And
Jaeho for
that's
that.
like that's a bolder like that's a good move. Like if nobody else is gonna like put their stake in the ground and be like, this is what I'm interested in. Now
Yeah,
adjust yourselves around it.
because there's a little bit of a. I feel like this kind of came up in Singles Inferno as well, where once somebody was like once somebody was kind of like talking about they were interested in somebody, then everybody else was kind of like, "Oh, I'm not gonna like step on your feet,"
Right.
in a way.
They were all very polite about it.
Yeah, and right now when there's only 3 girls in the show and there's 4 guys, I don't know how it's gonna be hard to avoid doing that, especially if multiple people start claiming. But
Right.
it could be a good strategy if you're on the show. Like Jaeho is straight up just telling them who he's going for. Um,
Yep.
I appreciate it because
I think it makes sense.
up until this point, from my perspective, everybody is talking in riddles, and it's really not clear
Yes.
what they're trying to say a lot of the times. But Jaeho's
Mhm.
like, "No, I'm definitely gonna try to date Daeyeon." um, and then we got a flashback, and this is what this is what I opened the show with. Um, we get the celebrities try to answer the age old question: is holding a stick of butter considered flirting? What do you think, Sarah?
Well, I have to agree with all the male panelists on this one that yeah, he was just trying to
Really?
flirt with her.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, I am not on board with this. I can't
No?
believe that. Yeah, so what the scene is when they're cooking breakfast, Hyunjoo, the female student, is trying to what is she making?
Toast.
She's like
She's making
she's
toast
like
in a
buttering the
pan.
pan to toast up some bread because I guess they don't do toasters or something. Um, and Dokyun has literally no idea what to do in the kitchen. So
Whatsoever.
when he finishes like buttering up the pan with the stick of butter, he like doesn't know what to do with it. And he like tries to put it down, but then he's worried that it will like fall on its side and like touch the counter.
It's a
So
big like bar
he
of butter.
says to Youngju like, "Oh, what should I do with the butter?" And she like jokingly says to him, "Oh, just hold it." And
Then he does.
Dokun proceeds to hold the butter for the rest of the time that they're cooking in the
He's going and
kitchen.
doing other things one-handed,
Yeah,
just
he's doing
holding his
everything
butter in
one
front of
handed because
him.
he has to hold on to the butter. Because, and then the debate here is between the celebrity judges is like, all the guy judges believe that he is intentionally doing a ridiculous thing that Youngjun suggested to him as a way of flirting with her.
He was listening.
Whereas all the women judges think that he is just being ridiculous and doesn't know what to do. And I am in the camp of the women judges. I don't think he is consciously like being an idiot to be cute. Like this is not.
I'll amend mine. I think it's a little of column A and a little of column B. He doesn't know what to do, so he leans into being an idiot in an attempt to be cute.
It's possible, I guess. I
He
don't
has a
know.
little smirk at some
It
point, which
does
feels
work.
like he's in on the joke, and
It,
it definitely
it
works.
does
She
work.
laughs
Like,
and she takes it from him at some
five,
point.
10 minutes later, Hyunju is like still looking at him holding the butter, and she gets like a big smile on her face, and she finally comes over and is like, "Okay, give me that butter. You're being ridiculous." But she does it in like, I The more the show goes on, I'm more impressed with Hyunjoo. She is like, I don't know, she's like really personable. She's more funny. She's funnier than some of the other girls, in my opinion. But
That's true.
maybe she wasn't on the joke of the situation, and I'm being too hard on Dokyun. But currently, I'm not giving Dokyun a lot of credit for anything that he's doing right
He's kind of like Mr. Magoo stumbling his way through like
now.
impressing the girls in this house.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I mean he got 3 votes, so he's
Doing something
literally
right.
dominating. Yeah. Um. So yeah. So finally, the girls are gonna. They show the girls like getting all, you know, is dolled up the right term here? They're getting dressed up to
They're
go to the restaurant.
yeah.
And this at this point I still was not aware that they were the only ones going. But
Yes.
on their way out, J-Ho is like in the living room on the second floor and they're like about to leave. He's telling me he's like, "Oh, I'm going to get all the decorations in the house set up for Christmas while you're gone." So he's like, you know, trying to get in some game before they leave. And like as they're leaving and walking down the stairs, and he outright says he's like, "You guys all look very dressed up and beautiful for some reason. Why is that?" It's so
He does it
good.
in a way where he is just like, yeah, y'all are looking good today. Good
Yeah,
job. He's he's putting in the time trying to flirt with all of them.
yeah. I guess that it's good. It's way more like in your face than anything. Like J-Ho's the
Oh
only
yeah.
one that is ever would attempt something like that.
He is taking advantage of his new position on the ladies' floor. And he's
Yeah.
gonna like at any moment he can to like put on a good,
Yeah, I was thinking about
step
that
in their
actually.
direction
Yeah, like he was probably like sitting in that area just waiting for them to leave.
for a while. Yeah,
Yeah, which is definitely the
definitely.
move. Like, why wouldn't you
Yep.
go just go like read a book on the living room in the second floor living room where like the girls have to walk by you to go to their bedroom or leave their room? Yeah, that's like definitely a thing you could just do. Okay, so they're gonna go to the restaurant. Any notes on getting to the restaurant?
Um, they have some nice little time in the car, the three ladies. Just it's a lot less passive aggressive than it was like during the first two episodes. They got a little weird at each other, but they seem to have mellowed out a bit.
Yeah, once they now that they know everybody their age, they're way cooler with each other. They're
Yeah,
like,
it
oh,
just
we're all
added some extra tension maybe, and
yeah,
they're over it now.
yeah. I guess it was definitely weird. I didn't really fully understand why they were. I guess they like it seemed like they really wanted the other like each woman wanted the other woman to be older than them. I guess is kind of like the
When it comes down to it, they're all like theoretically competing with each other, right? Like,
yeah, that makes sense. But they would have like they had these like passive aggressive comments where it was like, oh, I think you're the same age as me, but you're older than me. Like they were trying to
yeah.
guess each other's age and they weren't allowed to like confirm. So then created like animosity of them like being like even if I am older than you, why would you say that? Like kind of it's like kind of the feeling that I got from it. Okay, so they're going to get to the restaurant, and do you want to describe the restaurant scene? I don't actually have a lot of notes about the restaurant other than that I love this scene, the whole scene.
Well, first of all, like they drive down to Itaewon, which is like a really trendy, popular part of Seoul, where you have a lot of restaurants and cool places. But this restaurant is like in an alleyway, and it is the smallest restaurant I've ever seen. It is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
small. There's like two tables in there, and one of the tables takes up most of the room, and the kitchen is in the same area as the table.
Yeah.
There is no separate room for this.
The main table in the restaurant could just I would say it's like it's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Like
entire restaurant is the kitchen.
yeah, like you're watching like the wall that you're facing when you enter the restaurant is the countertop for the kitchen and you're like watching the backs of the chefs cook and there's nothing in between you and the chefs.
Which is a fun experience. There are
Yeah.
like restaurants that have special tables in the kitchen for just that reason,
Yeah.
but also like real estate's got to be real pricey down there. That's probably all he could, afford at the time.
Yeah. Usually it's like, you'll sit at the counter and the chef's on the other side of the counter. I feel like I've seen that before. But it's not as sociable because like the chef isn't even facing you. So
Right.
you're not really. They were talking to him while he was cooking, but they weren't. You know.
Well, as much as anyone can talk to Hyunwoo while he does
Yeah.
something.
He responded. I think he was a lot better in this situation than he was at the house, actually.
He probably, because he had all day to prepare for it. But yeah, when they first show up, like, the restaurant's kind of full because there's not a lot of space in there. They just say hi and they're gonna come back later, like in between the lunch rush and the dinner rush, I guess. And so they walk off to like go pick some flower or go to a flower shop or whatever. And he just like looks out the door at them walking away, and it's like really cute.
I I thought he was just like making sure they were going the right way or something. Like
I mean,
I didn't view this as like he was like swooning
that
for them or anything,
I
but
mean, him making sure they're going the right way is also cute.
I guess
Like he's making
so.
sure they're all right.
Common decency, but okay.
Hey, you need to take like because his like talking game is not on point at all. You have to take these like little gestures
Yeah.
where you can get them from him.
Yeah, I guess so, even as the audience. Yeah. So the girls come back though, and
Yes.
it seems like almost everybody's gone for the restaurant. They have this weird like it almost looks like it's like the CCTV camera set up, but it's got to be a production camera that is set up in the
Oh yeah, just
restaurant.
like up in the corner to get a full view
Yeah.
of the yeah.
Yeah. So, but the CCTV camera looks like they're the only ones in the restaurant now.
Yeah.
And he does this whole routine where he like tells them, "Oh, sit wherever you want." And then like Youngju like is about to sit somewhere, but then she realizes that like, oh, she can be closer to him if he switches seats, so she switches seats.
Yeah.
And then he does a thing where he brings them water, like some special water, like sugar water that he made. And he like, but he does this. I don't know. Have you ever had this in a restaurant where like the waiter will like crouch down to like eye level with the table? Have you ever experienced this before?
Like once or twice and it's usually super awkward.
Yeah, I want to say that it happens usually when if the restaurant is really loud,
Yeah.
it's a
Then it
move.
like makes sense.
Yeah,
But this is a very quiet, empty restaurant, and he's just like getting on their level to like be able
yeah,
to talk to them better, and it's kind of cute.
yeah. I was trying to think of like what type of waiter does this, but I feel like I've had enough waiters that have done this. It's like a variety of people. It's not always like they're trying to be more intimate with you. It's
Except
just like
in this case,
in this case, I think he's doing it on purpose. It might just be the way he does that he waits tables though. Like it might just be how he always does it. But we didn't get
oh,
to see
that's
him.
true,
We didn't get
maybe.
to see him do it with anybody with a different customer.
But the panelists again were all about this. They were like, "Oh, look at
Yeah,
him, how he's
huge
presenting the water to
reaction.
them down
Huge
on their
reaction.
down at their level. Oh, so
Yeah.
cute."
Yeah. Um so I think we cut away from from the restaurant scene at this point, but we'll get back to the restaurant, right? Is that what you have?
Yeah, we cut away to Gyubin and
Gyubin.
Dokyun times.
Yeah. So we first get Gyubin. This is like Gyubin and Dokyun because the restaurant takes up so much of this episode. Gyubin and Dokyun and Jaeho don't get a lot of the edit.
I have
And
a
so
note somewhere in here that's like, are Gyubin and Jaeho even in this show?
yeah.
Like they don't exist.
So the segment they give to Gyubin is him. I don't. Do you know who he's talking on the phone with?
I don't think they ever say, so I'm just assuming it's a friend.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like his dad or what it was, but he's talking on the phone with somebody, and he's basically talking about how he's feeling so far in the house.
And how he's feeling is that he's too young and it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel for him on this. This is like something that not only in like dating reality television, but all like reality game shows and stuff, where
Mhm.
you have to like be of a certain age before like older people will like view you as like a full blown adult. Like something like, I want to say like 27, like 26, 27, when like your like frontal cortex is like fully formed or something. And I guess his behavior, they get into a little bit on the show, like his behavior is a little bit like non-adultish at times
Yeah.
at well, and it's like definitely it's definitely going to hurt him on this show, especially with these three women who have said that they're looking for somebody who's like reliable, you know.
I think if he was had graduated and was like had a job, it would be completely not a
Yeah,
problem. Like the fact that he's a student puts him extra on that lower level of like not an adult yet.
yeah. Whereas it doesn't seem to be hurting Hyunjoo that much that she's a student, but for
Right.
which I think it probably is a little bit. I think it, even though she's only 1 year older than Gyubin, she does give off more of like an adult vibe
Yeah.
than Gyubin
And
does.
also like gender dynamics at play, like it's
Yeah, maybe.
more like socially acceptable for like younger women and it's just that's a whole mess unto itself.
Yeah, maybe. We don't have like another, like if there was like an awkward younger woman on the show, I feel like she would be in the same situation as Gyubin is in.
Really? I think she'd be like viewed as like, oh, the cute one. Like there's
Oh,
like if
maybe.
you go back to like Singles Inferno, like at one point the one of the women that like there's a host of people who are kind of not obsessed, but very into this one woman and she's the youngest, she's a student and she's just got this young fresh vibe that's cute and they really like so I think that's like a popular vibe for a young woman in Korea. So I think if Yubin was a woman, she'd be fine on this show.
What who from Singles Inferno are you talking about? Gia?
No, um, the one that your boy was obsessed with that drove me crazy.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the ages right now. Ji-yun. She's 25.
Yes.
She's 25 on the show. I'm looking up the ages of them right now. Um, so still like not as young as Gyubin, but I was thinking, if there's like a 22-year-old girl on the
Mm,
show, I want to say she would be in the same predicament, but I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, any sort of like any of these dating shows, when you have like people on the peripheries of the ages, like if you're too old or too young, it does get a little dicey and more difficult potentially.
Yeah, Youngwoo was much older than everybody on the show, and
He
doesn't seem to
is.
be hurting him in this moment right now.
It's true.
Yeah,
Everybody kind of seems enamored with him at the moment.
yeah. I do appreciate Gyubin's self awareness that his youth or his youngness is, even though he even says like he doesn't realize it, but he assumes like, oh, my inexperience must be showing, which in why like I'm not doing so well so far on the show. So I like that he's aware of himself. I appreciate. I liked that part of the segment. And then we get it. That was a quick segment, and then we switch over to Dokyun, who I maybe he had some sort of family gathering, and that's why he was actually had to leave the house at 1 p.m. because he ends up having this like private conversation in a restaurant or something with his brother-in-law,
Right.
and they get into like how Dokyun feels like he's doing on the show.
And he is at least, I'll give him credit for this, he's pretty self-aware that he's creepily staring at everyone.
Does he say that? Does he actually say that?
He's just like, yeah, well, maybe not creepy, but he's like, yeah, I spend a lot of time on this side just looking at everybody.
Well, I thought he was trying to say like, I haven't really talked to them that much. I thought I'm mostly just observing.
But he did like put an emphasis on the I'm observing a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just like, okay, I'll give you a little credit for being self-aware about that.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Again, not much. I didn't think it was that much to talk about Dokyun, but they had to. I feel like the show had to put them in the episode a little bit more
Yeah.
because they didn't go to
Well,
the restaurant. They should have just gone to the restaurant. We wouldn't have this problem.
At this point, he does kind of reveal who he's into. Same with Cuban. Like Cuban, they show a scene with him trying to flirt with Youngju, but like him coming off as too much of a child. And then he's hanging out with Hyunjoo later, and they have some cute like flirty times. And so it kind of indicates that he's into her. And then Dokyun actually also has some time, some extra time with Hyunjoo, where um, they're kind of flirting too.
They have their butter moment as well.
They replay their butter moment, and then there's that point with the glasses, which is
Oh
actually both
yeah,
of the guys like trying on glasses with her, and
that was good.
yeah,
Yeah,
they seem to be vibing a bit.
Hyunjoo was kind of I thought she was pretty rude actually, and that Yuban was like, I actually wear glasses a lot, but I don't think they're appropriate for television, is the way it was translated. So I haven't. So
Yeah,
he's like been wearing contacts, I guess. And then, but then Hungju's like insists, like, no, no, let me see you with your glasses on. And then he puts on the glasses, and then Youngju's like, okay, take them off, take them off, take them off, take them off. Like she's like, you were
she
right,
is
those are
not
bad.
with that look.
Oh my god, I was like, okay, they're not great glasses,
Yeah,
but I didn't think they were that bad. My god.
yeah, but then she tries on his glasses, and
Yeah.
they have Jokin try them on at some point, and she says he looks like someone, some I guess either Korean character or celebrity, and I don't know if it's an insult or if it's
I think it was a
if she's saying he
bad.
looks good.
I think it was bad because he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get trolled for that after the show or
Mm,
something." Was he made a comment
yeah.
like that? But they weren't trying the glasses on to see how they looked in the glasses. They were trying the glasses on so that they could see how bad Cuban's eyesight was.
Yeah.
That's how they were trying it on. So it was a little bit of just kind of like it was another bad scene for Cuban in the end. I felt like, and they somehow used his glasses to like for like Hyungjoo and Dokyun to flirt over his glasses. It was like really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But so both of them are kind of like saying to their respective people that they're interested in her.
they're both interested in Hyungjoo. Yeah, the student. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then we're gonna go back to the restaurant. You want to talk about the restaurant again, Sarah?
There is a thing that I'm obsessed with that I will never get resolution to, which is Hyunwoo has a tattoo on his arm. And you can kind of see it peeking out of his long, like normally he wears long sleeves. You can
Really?
kind of see it while he's cooking, but it's blurred out a bit because tattoos are a little bit taboo still in Korea. And all I want to know is what this tattoo is, and I know they're never going to show it on the show,
Oh,
and I'm so
really? I
upset.
didn't even notice this. Oh my.
And they actually referenced it earlier when they're talking about their jobs in like episode 2. Somebody guessed that he might be a tattoo artist because he has this big tattoo on his arm. So they have seen it,
Oh, I
but we
didn't
will
put that
never
together.
know.
We'll never
I
know.
tried to Google it. It's not on the internet. I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's cooking for them. Um, oh yeah, he offers them whatever the menu of the day is because apparently he just comes in and cooks whatever he feels like every day. It's not
Yeah.
like a regimented menu. Um, but he cooks some Japanese food that I'm not familiar with, but it's a lot of little bowls and everything's very cute, and all the girls seem very impressed. And
Hmm.
while he's cooking, they're just kind of behind him, staring at him and talking about it.
Yeah. What I liked about this scene was the girls like convince him to like eat with them, right?
Oh, yeah.
But he doesn't make himself the food that they're eating. He just like eats whatever he packed for lunch that day while they're eating
Yeah,
like
he's
the
got like a
fancy,
sandwich
yeah.
or something.
He just got like some sandwich he made. Uh yeah. But then this whole scene is filled with the judges are very obsessed with, they believe, I don't know how true this is, but they really believe that Hyungwoo is like almost like staring at Youngju like the whole time and really paying attention to like whether or not she likes the food or she needs like more food.
I think he definitely is. At
You think
least
so?
the way
Okay.
it's edited. Like, yeah, there's definitely a part where he's like, "Oh yeah, if you mix that all together before you eat it, it'll taste better." And oh, did you want more of that? And somebody will say something, and he'll look at them and respond, but he comes back to like look for her continuation of the conversation a lot.
Yeah. I feel like that's just like
And
a
it
thing that
seems like,
chefs do. Like they're like they tell you how to eat it kind of thing.
yeah, but he does that to her. He's not
You
necessarily
think he's
like
only saying it to her?
paying attention to the other two women and what how they're eating.
Okay. That's definitely what the show wants us to believe. And I've kind of noticed in the show, like I'm like reading into the edit too much when I watch this show, but like in reality, it's like, oh, the show is not really trying to trick us. It's like they're just trying
Yeah.
to like tell, even though they play this little game at the end of every episode where they try to guess. It's like the show is kind of just like telling you what the answers are throughout the episode, and sometimes it's
They're
hard to
not trying
guess.
to pull any tricky nonsense.
Yeah, sometimes it can still be hard to guess, but other times it's just like, okay, the show showed me this, so this must be
Hmm.
what happens. Yeah.
And I think when it's hard to guess that it's just something so ubiquitously Korean that they don't like call it out, and we just don't get that cultural thing. I think that's part of when it's
Okay.
hard.
Hmm. I remember in episode 2, the judges were able to guess that like I don't know if they said all the women would pick Dokyun, but like 2 out of the 3 they said we're gonna pick Dokyun, and I thought they were out of their minds.
Oh, yeah, same.
Um,
None of that made any sense to
yeah,
me.
so they were very much aware of something that I did not understand.
But I also think I have a bit of a bias against him. I'm just not into Tokyo.
Maybe I don't have a problem with
He's
them,
too
but
much
I just
staring.
these
He's
other
too
guys.
awkward. Not about it.
I thought these other guys were just more interesting than him, but
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, I have in my notes that they say it's Christmas Eve in this scene, but I think we established, yeah, this is a Christmas Eve Eve.
Yeah. And really, well, you've seen the next episode. I don't, maybe that indicates more.
Yeah, I
Um,
want to say spoil spoiler for the rest of this episode. They don't go on any dates in this episode. They still don't go on any dates in this episode. They finally, I will tell you, they finally do go on dates in the next episode, and I believe it's Christmas Eve on the next episode when they go on dates.
okay.
And I don't know if that is like what is like. Yeah, I think you've told me before. How is like Christmas
So
celebrated in Korea? What is it viewed as?
Christmas in Korea is less of a like family holiday, and it tends to be more of like a date holiday or going and hanging out with your friends holiday.
Okay, and they eat like it seems like well, I guess this is I learned this from future episodes, but I think they like eat American food or like fried chicken or something. Is that normal too?
Oh,
Is that
I
not
knew
true?
that fried chicken on Christmas was definitely a Japanese thing. I don't know that
Oh, okay.
I'm familiar with it as a Korean thing, but Korea is very proud of its fried chicken.
There's a little bit of a
So,
weird moment where they
butter
like
chicken.
the guys on one of the guys on the dates like takes one of the girls to like a traditional Korean restaurant, and she was like, "Oh, this
Mhm.
is a weird place to go on Christmas."
Oh,
I
interesting.
don't know.
Okay.
At least that's how I interpreted it. But
Gonna
um,
research that later.
all right. Anything about the restaurant that you want to say? The restaurant is a really big scene. It's just a really good scene that I don't know what I want to say about it, but I just had so much fun watching this. It was a very long scene.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of like Daeun trying to like drive the conversation, but it always still comes back to Hyunwoo and Youngju. Like she's like Daeun's definitely into him,
Yeah.
but like she hasn't given up yet, but she knows like she can sense the vibe that he's into Youngju instead.
I felt like that was only based in the fact that he recognized her from somewhere. Because when they're driving over to the restaurant, they kind of like rehash the girls rehash that conversation. They're like, "Oh, he remembered you from
Right.
before. That could mean something."
I think Daeun's kind of like really concerned about that.
Really?
Like
Oh, really? You think so?
she thinks it means something, and so she's a little like it's not gonna stop her from going after him, but like she's a little bit concerned about it.
Yeah. At this point in the show, I think Hyungwoo is by far the most interesting guy. Um,
Just in
but
that like false mystery sort of way where he doesn't
yeah,
say a lot, so you're like, what's going on?
and it's also kind of based on that. He's the only one that has been able to like show his skills. Like
That's true.
everybody else, like all they do is when they're home is like make food and drink, and the like his skill set is making food. So
Yeah, he has
Uh,
that advantage.
I remember watching this and be like, when are they gonna leave the house and start doing things out of the house? That's got to be part of the show. Like I was getting a little like claustrophobic with this house. I wanted to get out of there.
Right.
Is there anything else in the restaurant?
Oh, they have an awkward conversation where like Youngju calls him out again for guessing that she was 30 and he tries
Yeah,
to explain himself. He's like, "Well, I wanted you to be like closer in age to me." Like he's like, "It's a good thing."
yeah. To me, this whole thing, I was kind of in Youngwoo's thing of like, why are we talking about this? Like this, her, it seems to be that it seems like the way that people interpret, like if you think I'm older than I am, it's because you think I'm like ugly or something, or I'm not as beautiful as a younger person would be. Is like how they choose to
He
interpret
was
that
taking it.
invitation.
Yeah.
So he's I don't know if he's actually just trying to backtrack and he came up with that, or I mean I believe what he's saying. Like he wasn't like he saw her X amount of years ago, thought they were the same age, and then now it's now. So he's like, oh, 30, that's pretty close to my age, but still younger.
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in his camp. I mean, he was 4 years off, which I guess is a lot. Like people get offended if you're like 1 or 2 years off, it seems, in these guesses. So he was off by 4. He was the most off by anybody's guess on the show. So
Yes.
I guess it was like the most offensive. But why are you playing this game of like, let's guess each other's ages and let's get offended if their people guess badly? Like, why are we playing this game if you're really gonna get offended by it? Yeah. So I was in Hyunjoo's camp of like, hey, we know each other's ages now. We don't have to talk about it anymore. uh, okay, so then we get to the big final, you know, production mechanic of the show for this episode. And do you want to describe how this works? Or
So, instead of sending text messages today, they are going to set up a date. And how this works is each of the guys have to go out and buy a Christmas gift for the woman they want to go on a date with, but they cannot put her name on it. And they're all just going to put them under the tree. And then whoever's gift the women pick, that's the date they'd have to go on.
yeah, and I thought going into this, I thought like they would just like pick a present wrapped, and it would be like, oh, you open the gift and you find out like, oh, this is the gift you get, and this is the person who gave it to you. But it's like
Yes,
it turns out that they get to
same.
open the gifts, look at what they are, and kind of deduce who would have like made this a Christmas gift.
Right.
So there's a little bit of like a cat and mouse game between the women of them like talking about who they think the gifts are from, but they're all like also trying to get the gift that they think is the person they want to date. It's very silly.
And remember, there's only 3 women right now, there's 4 men. And the way they resolved that is somebody gets 2 gifts and has to go on 2 dates,
Yeah.
which is not what I was expecting either.
And they do this they do this totally unfairly too, in my opinion, where like production didn't tell them like how to do this. They just kind of had to like sort it out amongst themselves. So they play rock paper scissors. They open all the gifts and they look at the gifts. Let's talk about the gifts first, and then we'll talk about how they decide this. Do you have the gifts after they
Yeah,
open
so
them?
there was one of the gifts was this ceramic rabbit with like well, I guess the gift was mostly the bracelet, but it was like wrapped around the ceramic rabbit. And there was a cross on it, and that seemed to be what the girls were latching onto. They're like, are any of these guys religious? Who would pick this one?
Yeah.
Um, then there's this cute little bracelet in like a wooden box. It's on like some lace and I don't know potpourri or something. It's very
Oh,
kind
that
of
was a
rustic and cute.
bracelet. I just have.
I think
I
it was
wrote
a
that as
bracelet.
no. It's a necklace.
Oh, is it a necklace?
Yeah.
Some piece of cute
You're
jewelry.
talking about the gold one, right? I'm pretty sure it's a
No,
necklace.
it's like a pink stone,
Oh.
and it's like the wooden clamshell box.
Yeah.
It could be a
I
bracelet, it
thought it
could
was
be
a
a
gold. I
necklace.
thought it was a gold, like a gold chain for
It
the
might be a
neck.
gold chain. I
Yeah.
focused on the stone itself.
Yeah.
Um, then there's like a jewelry set, which is like earrings and a necklace, which is all like very polished, straight from the jewelry store looking. And then there's like a bouquet of roses and a scarf. That is the
That's
final
one
gift.
gift. Yeah.
As one gift, yes.
Yeah, so they go around and they kind of talk about who they think would give these gifts. And it's very centered around like the judges are really harping on this. Like they really center around like, oh, they're the show is showing you get all the three of them guessing which one is Hyungwoo's. Because like after their restaurant experience, like it seems like they all want to go on a date with young Hyungwoo by themselves, which is funny.
And they do actually end up picking the one that they each thought was Hyunwoo's because they each think a different gift is
Yes,
his.
at least that yeah. And so what they do is they play to decide who gets to pick. They play rock paper scissors to like decide the draft order.
Hmm.
So who goes first?
Daeun
Daeun
gets
goes
to
first,
go.
and she picks the earrings and the necklace.
Then it's Youngju.
She picks the scarf and flowers,
Yes.
and then Hyungju goes and she picks the what I think is a gold necklace
Yeah,
in the
the
fancy
little wooden
box.
box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you you want to talk about? Did you do predictions for this?
Yeah. Okay, so
I
they
did
show
as
us
well.
like um a montage of these guys in different stores picking things,
Yeah.
but they didn't actually show what anybody picked, but like by paying attention to that, I kind of made guesses as to who bought what. So I thought Hyunwoo bought the rabbit with the bracelet or the necklace or whatever it was. I thought Dokyun did the bracelet necklace in the little wooden box. Jaeho, I thought got the jewelry set. And Gyubin, I thought was the scarf and the flowers.
I think you did better than me. I did not
Okay.
pay attention. I did do predictions, but uh I don't know if I got any of them right. I watched ahead, so I
Oh,
know which ones are right. But I did not pay attention to the montage of them in the
okay.
stores. I just kind of went off their personalities and what they would get.
Fair.
And the only one that I felt was like this has to be right is I thought Hyungwoo got the flowers because it was like the girls got him flowers.
Oh,
So I thought like if he was
that's
being
smart.
smart and playing the game, he'd be like, I want them to know who they're going on a date with, so I'm gonna get them flowers. And then I guess he got a scarf too, because I don't
Gotta
know. I
get
don't know
something
why.
other than
Because the
flowers.
flowers is
Yeah.
like it's not expensive enough or something. They probably
Right.
had like a budget or something. I don't know what it was. Um, so that was the only one I felt really good about. But then I
Okay.
think when I rewatched and watched the montage, I was like, oh wait, he is not in a clothing store. But I was like, this has got to be right because he's playing the game. Um,
Maybe they didn't show them actually in the stores that they finally bought something. They might have gone to a couple stores. Who
yeah,
knows?
the show isn't that clever though. I think I don't have it. I kind of wrote this down weird, so I couldn't when you were saying your things, I couldn't perfectly map.
Hmm.
I have like my guesses down with who actually picked them, and then yeah, it was confusing. I think you did. You definitely got at least some of them right, if I had to
So
guess, but
what's
I don't
funny
know.
about my picks is like it looks like they're all trying to pick Hyunwoo's gift, but if I was right, none of them did. They all got it wrong.
Oh yeah,
But then they do rock paper scissors again.
this is totally unfair. This is totally unfair. They instead, I think Hyungjoo, who had to pick last, should just get the other gift.
Yeah, that's a good
Unless
point.
she doesn't want to go on two dates. Maybe that was the case. Maybe it was like we don't want to go on two dates, so we're gonna play rock paper scissors to
And
decide
they
who
did
has to
rock
go on two
paper
dates.
scissors in a weird way. They're like whoever comes second in rock paper scissors has
Oh
to pick the
yeah,
other
that's
gift.
true.
So like if they had just done rock paper scissors proper, it would have been Hyunchu who got the second gift
Yeah,
anyway. But it
yeah,
was Daeun's.
yeah. So Daeon won in quotes the the rock paper scissors
Second.
twice. So she got the first pick
Yeah.
and the last pick, and she's gonna go on 2 days. Yeah. So then the rest of this episode, this is most episodes, just ends with the celebrity judges trying to guess who. Oh, instead of sending text this episode, they filled out private surveys where they just said who they would like to go on a date with if they could choose. Right?
Yeah.
So this instead of guessing their text, they are guessing who each person wants to go on a date with. And
this
I don't think it's worth.
forever.
It takes forever. I don't think this part of the show is worth talking about. But I will say that for the first time in 3 episodes, they get all 6 right.
Which means that they get this fancy little stone, and I don't know why it's important.
Like there's actually like a competition going on between the celebrity judges of like who can be the most right.
Except for their predictions, they all come to a
Yeah.
consensus. So like I don't understand.
Yeah. So in episode 4 though, I'll tell you, like at the end, instead of them doing like a group guess, they each like pick a card with somebody's name on it, and they have to like individually decide who that person is going to pick.
Okay.
And then if they get it right, like they get a little like dumb heart trinket thing.
So
there's like
a stone of love.
Yeah. And then for some reason, because there's 7, I think there's 6 judges and 7 people, like the host of the show got to pick 2 cards, and like if he gets both right, then he gets like 2 heart things, but if he gets one of them wrong, he gets none. So he had to get them like both right or nothing. So yeah, I don't know what the payoff of this. Is there like a cash prize for these celebrities at the end of the game? I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. But I'll quickly say who wants to date who. Do you want to do that?
Well, the most important thing is that Hyunjoo wants to date Hyunwoo, and Hyunwoo wants to date Youngjoo. So I'm happy.
Youngjoo and Hyunwoo. Okay, yeah, that was your shipping couple, right?
Yeah.
So that's the marketing girl and the Japanese restaurant owner. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought all 3 girls would want to be with Hyunwoo, but Hyunjoo actually chooses Dokyun.
Yeah, and he
sticking
chooses
with
her. So we've got a second.
Oh yeah, he does
choose
her too. Yeah. And then everything else just kind of falls in line with, like the other 3 guys.
Yeah, Gyubin also picks Hyunjoo, like they kind of alluded to earlier.
Yeah, whatever the segment that they got in the show was, like the show basically just like told us who they were picking almost.
Yeah. Daeun picks Hyunwoo, and then Jae-ho picks Daeun.
Yes, yeah. So at this point in the show, it's actually Gyubin and Jae-ho are not getting matches, or they're not getting text, or nobody wanted to date them going into this episode.
Yes. I don't think they know that this time.
But everybody else, if they had gotten text, everybody else would have gotten a text. Right? Yes. All 3 women would have gotten a text.
Yep.
Yeah. So the other thing that they do in this, whenever they're doing these reveals, I wanted to talk about this. Like, whenever they're doing these, they do these like long, drawn out reveals of like who wants to date who, and then they draw like a line from their picture to the person they want to date pictures. Yeah, it takes so long to get through this part of the show, but they play this like music, while like the suspense music, while we're waiting for each line to show up on the screen, and I would describe this music as like slow Tron music. Like, how would you describe this?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also too loud. Like whenever they're debating things, like they have not leveled out their audio at all, and like the music is too loud while they're like just waiting and discussing.
Yeah.
This whole segment needs to be revamped.
Yeah. I don't know, like maybe people are really into this part of the show. Because I mean, this is season 2, so I don't know. It was popular enough that they did this. And it seemed like they brought back 4 of the 6 judges that they did in season 1. I don't know. We're only watching season 2 because the person that recommended this to me just said, hey, season 2 and season 3 are really good. And they were like, you don't have to watch season 1. So I'm no completionist, so I just said, let's go for it. Start in season 2.
Go for the good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll circle back around to season 1, but it might be too disappointing by the time I get to it.
Sure.
All right, and then the super non-climactic way, that's the end of the episode. No dates. Yep. We don't get to see the dates. We don't get to find out. We don't get to find out who's going to date who.
Just tune in next week.
Yeah, tune in next week. Oh, and if anybody wants to listen to spoilers on who goes on dates with who, we'll be going through that after the closing music. Well, we do get a little bit of a like next time on the show, and we get a little bit of like glimpses of these dates that are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I have in my notes like there's going to be hand holding at a VR cafe.
Oh yeah.
And the judges were popping off when they started holding.
It's like in some K-dramas, some older K-dramas, like nobody ever kissed or hooked up. You're just waiting for that handhold moment to happen, and it seems like that's the reaction they were having.
Oh, so good. Oh, I love this show. I think going forward, if we do more podcasts of this show, I'm just gonna like highlight the Stangman standing up moments. Like I'm gonna put that in my notes because I didn't do it for this episode, but I feel like he must have gotten out of his seat for some reason at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are like the largest moments in the episode usually, is when Stangman can't contain himself. So what do you think of the show, Sarah? I've been saying how much I love this show the whole time, so I
love this show too.
Kept watching.
I think it's
going
great.
to keep watching.
Definitely gonna keep watching.
Anybody who's similarly likes a different pace to their reality television, maybe you've given up on reality TV because there's too many crazies.
Yeah, if American reality dating shows are a little too much for you and you just want to relax a little bit and occasionally somebody cooks an egg, this is for you.
Yeah. This is much more. I find these like these people seem like real people to me, whereas like half the cast of like a season of The Bachelor feels like these people are trying to be characters on a TV show. So I don't get into it. I don't take it seriously. It has its own place in terms of entertainment, but it's not the same as this entertainment. Like if you're really in it for just people being genuine and like dating each other and really seeing if they are compatible, like this is the show, in my opinion.
Also, don't understand if there's an end game to the show. If just suddenly it's like, this is the day we're moving out. Who is the last person you'd like to go on a date with? That also just seems like a satisfying enough for me.
Yeah. So do you want to keep podcasting about this show? I do. I think I've watched episode 4 and 5, and every episode I'm like urging to talk about it with somebody.
Yeah, I'd love to
hash out like every little moment in the show.
Ooh, I do have an important question for you though.
Okay.
So say you're in this scenario where you have to buy a gift for the person you want to date. What's your strat going into buying a gift to try to get them to know it's yours?
To know it's mine. Oh, okay. Yeah, you would think that like Do-kyun would have done something really clever with this because he's been very calculated
Bought some butter.
To this point. Bought some butter.
He should have literally bought her butter.
Yeah, if he's specific, but it's a little bit of a weird thing where like I guess he wants a specific girl to pick his thing. I also wonder if the guys knew that they would be looking at the gifts beforehand. I'm almost convinced that they didn't know. They like weren't aware of that. Yeah. I think they just bought things. Because I think they would have been more calculated if they understood that the girls were going to look at the gifts before choosing. I feel like they just kind of bought something that they thought the girl they wanted to date would like, but they were just hoping that they picked it as like randomly out of when they opened the box. I don't know. They show a little bit of the guys like talking to people at stores in the montage, and them like kind of just vaguely describing the girl that they like.
Right.
So what would I do? I mean, like the flower thing for Hyunjoo. For me, it would be less about, I want to like get a specific girl to pick mine versus just like, I would just want all of them to know that it was mine, So they're not
They
like
can make an informed
surprised.
decision.
Yes, they're not like
Yeah.
surprised when it's me. Like even if they don't pick me first or whatever, at least like they know what they're getting into. Um, so it'd be like totally contingent on to like be like whatever conversation was had in the house. I do think it would be very fun to be on the show. I don't. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of all the shows of
To
this
just
type, this
like,
would be the preferable
yeah,
option.
to just like you're like you don't even have to like miss work or anything, right? They all like work. They
Yeah,
all work in the Seoul, somewhere in the Seoul city of Korea.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they're just living their lives, and part of it's on TV.
suppose like all of them either living by themselves or living with like their family, like their
Right.
parents at home. So it's like it's just kind of like an independent experience that really, I mean, it could distract you. I could definitely see it's like it's probably going to distract you from work because you're thinking about all these extra things outside of work now, but
Yeah.
it's pretty like low risk to go on this show and just have a good time. But yeah, I don't have a good answer. I don't have a good answer without having had the conversation with people. But do you have, what would you do?
Um, I I have a strategy, but I think it might break the rules, but I don't know, which is I just get a bracelet or something that like has the girl's name on it,
Oh,
or
that's not
has her
allowed.
initials on it,
That's not allowed.
or has my initials on it, or just something like that, you know?
That's there's no way that's allowed. I found the producer of the show. I say nope. Go back to this. Go return that to the store. Here's a scarf and some flowers. You can use these.
I'd still try. I gotta get whatever advantage I can.
Yeah, I think the strategy. I think it's much more interesting from. It'd be much more fun to be choosing the gifts than it is to be buying the gifts. That's what I'll say.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather be like deducing who gave which gift than having to go to the store and like buy a gift for somebody I don't know who's getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Should have bought her butter though. Oh man.
But yeah, what's like a I can't think of like a sneaky way to
Or like a charm bracelet with some like a
with
little
like
stick of butter
a
on it for
cow
whatever
on it.
reason.
Or like a
Or
cow.
something.
Yeah. I thought the bracelet was the best gift. Other
The
than the scarf and flowers if it ends up being like a good indicator of who it was, you know.
the bracelet on the rabbit or the bracelet in
Yeah.
the wooden box? Okay.
Again, I think I'm pretty confident it's like a gold chain necklace, or it looks
Okay.
gold at least. Um, the bracelet on the rabbit, yeah, that's like it's like a charm bracelet ish
Yeah.
thing, right? I don't know. They're all pretty
Hmm.
lame gifts, honestly. But
Well, it's hard. You met somebody 3 days ago. Now you got to buy him a
yeah,
gift to
bracelet
convince
seems
him to go on a
less.
date with you.
Yeah, a bracelet seems less like more like friendly and less like I don't know.
Yeah, it is a less intense jewelry gift than like a
Yeah,
necklace or
they're like
a
all
ring or
things I
something.
wouldn't. They're like all things I wouldn't. I have no interest in, I guess. But uh, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna do episode 4 and 5 and 6 and
Yeah,
7. We'll probably keep going. Unless the show gets bad, maybe we'll stop and then we'll just maybe do like a wrap up.
I'm here for it. Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining us while we recapped Heart Signal episode 3 on the Keep Watching podcast. Join us next time, and we're going to go over episode 4.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Oof.
Okay, do you want to do a spoiler segment of the you want to do a spoiler segment of who's going to go on a date with who?
Yes, tell
That
me
we
if I'm
can
right.
maybe we can put this at the end
Okay.
of the podcast. Okay, so I actually have to think about this.
Yeah, you better get it right.
Yeah, so who picked first? Daeyeon picked the earrings, right? That ends up the
Wait.
earrings.
The first, yeah, she
Yeah,
picked, yes, the jewelry set, the earrings of the
yeah,
necklace.
that ends up being Dokyun.
Dokyun, really? Oh, I messed it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then next is Hyunjoo. She picks the scarf and flowers.
Mm-hmm.
That ends up being Gyubin.
Oh yeah, got it.
That one I heard you get right. Yeah. Which I was like, I can't believe. I can't believe it wasn't the flowers. I was like, that was the only one I was like, I hadn't. Yeah, if you go back and watch it, he's definitely not in a place where he's gonna buy scarf and flowers. But yeah, and then the Hyungju picks the gold necklace, and that ends up being Hyungwoo.
Really?
So Hyungju and Hyungwoo are gonna go out, and
That means because she's the one in the VR, right? They hold hands.
yes, they do go to the VR. Now each date ends up being like, they go to multiple locations. Usually it's like they start at like a place to eat food and then they go to like an activity.
Activity.
Yeah. Um so and then that leaves Daeyeon's second date is Jaeho. So Jaeho, I believe, is the only person who gets to go on a date with the person that they wanted to go on a date with. and
Oh,
and it's with somebody that also went on a date with somebody else. So he had to he,
he's like he gets leftover date.
yeah. I think the show even puts his date second. But yeah, so I actually think the show gets like a little bit of like the production gets lucky with this where the people don't get who they want to go on a date with. And I think it's good for the show that this happens.
They'll couple up too early.
It's a little like
interesting.
for the audience, it's like, oh man, I really wanted to see, Hyungwoo and
yeah.
Youngju go on a date because it seemed like they were really hitting it off. But it definitely, like, once you've been on a date with somebody, it doesn't have to, I feel like it doesn't have to be such a big deal, but like these people make it like a big deal, whenever they go on a date with somebody, I feel like. And it creates like jealousy because like everybody else is like going on a date with the person they wanted to go on a date with. So it's great. It's great the way it plays out. I don't think production could have got any luckier with how this worked out. All right. Anything else?
I'll just be here patiently waiting for Hyunwoo and Youngju to go on a million dates
Okay.
and couple up properly because
Could be waiting a while.
I'm
We'll
all
see.
about it.
We'll see.